And welcome everyone, Tevo, Sean, Colin, all community members here joining today. Welcome to OmegaClaw Live Action Workshop number 2. Today we're going to be moving forward to set up to live agents. The goal is very practical: get OmegaClaw running, understanding how its main components work together, and start extending your own orchestration agent. We'll be exploring how the OmegaClaw can orchestrate cognitive components, coordinate tools and agents, and knock through an existing agent architecture. This is a hand-on session, so follow along, experiment, ask questions, and don't worry if something breaks, because that's what usually happens when we go to these sessions. And again, welcome everyone, and let's activate OmegaClaw together, and yeah, let's get started with today's workshop. I'm gonna be building a short introduction to set up context, and then we're gonna go hands-on. So here we can see how the OmegaClaw moves beyond simple LLM prompting. So the LLM acts as a coordinator. It decides when to access files, use memory, communicate, or invoke reasoning tools. The important aspect or part of the reasoning layer goes through meta. OmegaClaw invokes NAL and PLN system inferences, so non-axiomatic logic and probabilistic logic networks using OpenCog and HyperSprint, working with explicit premises and through values rather than relying on a probabilistic text generation. So the key idea is that the LLM orchestrates, the tools provide capability, memory provide context, and meta enables formal reasoning. That combination is what makes OmegaClaw an hybrid neural symbolic agent architecture. So let's probably use an example. Let's think the OmegaClaw as the conductor rather than the orchestra. So for example, an agent could receive a task, retrieve relevant knowledge from memory, ask an LLM to interpret it, use PLN when uncertainty needs to be evaluated, call an external service, and then act on the result. So the important idea here is that the difference for different forms of intelligence can be combined dynamically instead of forcing one model to solve every part of the problem. So I make small questions trying to make this more of a common language. So what is OmegaClaw different or unique? Let's say that there's a lot of agents and different provider services that are that have the same, let's say, architecture. So memory tools, agents, feedback loops, and continual executing. So OmegaClaw distinctive proposition is that the LLM is not the entire cognitive core. So it combines, as we mentioned, OpenCog, HyperSprint, meta, and atom space. So it is an unusual combination, yes, but however, different doesn't mean that it's proven superior, and that's the idea of the workshop and inviting the community to build upon improvements for the OmegaClaw and the HyperSprint, as it still remain experimental. So claims of AGI, autonomous self-improvement, or superiority over alternative agent architecture is still a research hypothesis. So in short, Omega explores different parts, placing LLMs inside a persistent neural symbolic cognitive architecture designed for reasoning, reflection, and continual improvement, rather than making an LLM itself the cognitive core. So this is where OmegaClaw becomes continual rather than one shot. So imagine we ask an agent to monitor a project. It observes what happened, combine that with the previous state of the memory, decide the next action. So invokes the appropriate tool and fits the result back into the next cycle. So each cycle builds on the previous one, allows the agent to continue working even without immediate human input. You can follow the examples of this practically in our Telegram channel, where community is engaging with OmegaClaw, and we have proven records of this happening. And importantly, the loop is bounded. So, for example, tools invocates are K per cycle, giving us more control from agent autonomy. And again, be aware of the token expenses, and that's one of the improvements we want to reach with the community building together. Okay, reduce the amount of tokens, reduce the amount of energy, as energy equals output, and that's all what the biggest challenge of AI. So before we jump on hands-on, let's go for a little bit of what you need. So these are your two main entry points, okay? GitHub repo is where you can explore the code, documentation, examples, and start experimenting with the Omega. And if you want to keep building after today, please complete the onboarding form that we are sharing on the channel and on the feed of this live streaming and on Twitch. And it will help you to connect with you and you to connect with the community and understand. Let's keep understanding together what we're trying to build. It's just a simple guide. So the goal isn't just to finish these workshops; is to get your hands to collaborate in building together the experience. So let's move into next step. Prerequisites for your system to be able to run the Omega. So OS or Windows, you will need to set up, okay? So before cloning and running the Omega, make sure you have the environment needed, Python, and so forth. So most installation problems happen here. So if something fails later, this is the first checklist to come back to, okay? And once everyone has the environment ready, we can clone the repo and bring the agent to live. Again, the idea of the channels on our Discord service is to invite you to not only to this session, but to work async, okay? And have specific channels for engaging with developer teams. And also through the BGI sprints, the HyperSprint that is on now, that is inviting you to participate in our what is call to action with 3 pools to improve, innovate, and follow up on projects, and also invite you to participate in building documentation. More information on the feed and also on the channel. Okay, so you're gonna find install and how to run the Omega, PeTTa, and all you need, okay? Follow the light in the repo. So now that we have covered this, yeah, we're gonna come back to this call to action. But probably it's a good time. So I would like to introduce Tibo here, who's going to share his hands-on experience working with the OmegaClaw, what he has learned, what challenges we encountered from last week, okay, our first workshop, and how he's approaching the framework as a developer. Not only that, Tibo is a system designer specialist. It's our craftsman, our witchcraft on the Ambassador Program as a process artisan and mastercraft. He has a a big bag full of ideas that he's trying to implement with this tool. So he will also take us for a live coding session, okay? So we can see how the OmegaClaw running, evolving, and being extended in a real development environment. So Tivo, without further ado, welcome, mate. The stage is yours. You want to share your screen? Go for it.
Hello. Yes, and I will be sharing screen. That was a interesting introduction. Wasn't expecting so much of about me, but yeah, like if I don't know how many joined in the last session or catched up on that. Uh, we the first like issues, yeah, that I'm like running into is like setting up the OmegaClaw itself in a sense that I'm not like a Docker user, and it's like it requires Linux. And the first onboarding messages wasn't that clear either. So one thing what we are doing here is like every week we can always see improvements on the onboarding doc that are more clarified. And then also while we're doing it, I guess we're also training or like figuring out how can we one shot in the when we are using with agents to set up this like first OmegaClaw instances because I feel like more like I want to get my hands dirty and then figure out how to use it. And so, but this comes with also like with different kind of pain points. Um, so yeah, my strategy was to basically set up one Docker instance, and the first things that I care about was like the resource consumption when I apply my API keys, because it was not clear how much like compute it will start using. And it seemed to always iterate like every few seconds and do something. So first thing was like, okay, all iteration to the minimal as possible. But what happened was then in the last workshop, we recognized that it didn't answer correctly. When I asked, okay, what do you know about your memory? It came like a generic AI answer and didn't consider any of the like the OmegaClaw zone context. But the end of the workshop, we did some kind of like questioning, like ideating, and we had another member in the workshop that had it working and was prompting the OmegaClaw, giving very good answers about it. So we found the issue that, yeah, the fact that I removed the iteration amount to like 5 per iteration and reduced like thinking by 2 seconds, like there are parameters and that you can change at the when you start the container. Yeah, it basically inhabited it to provide that multiple loops through LLM to like feed it with its own context. So what I did in the meantime, I was then trying to, yeah, like one thing, all of that, what I'm doing is also in localhost because I like the way to interact with like the agent that I pulled my own like front end for that. In the guidelines, it suggests to use like Telegram or Reddit or this IRC channel, which all are like valid ways to interact and find out how it works and for you. But what I intend to use the OmegaClaw is so many things, and we want to also monitor the like behind the scenes of what it's thinking, so I can understand better how my like prompts affect the system. So after, yeah, what you see on my screen now is basically Visual Studio Code. So I use Copilot and Codex, and like basically I use Auto Mode, but it uses usually Claude Opus or like the Codex models to develop around it. But inside this localhost, in that chat window, for example, I have the OmegaClaw running. You will also notice I have now multiple Windowses. They are all in different ports. So yeah, if we check, I made 3 containers and they are all actually using the same AI model. I think it's this like um, basically OpenAI is some kind of model, but the difference is that each of these have different list loop like iterations. And my latest, I opened up a latest session where I compared like what's the difference between having like 5 loops, 10 loops, or 20 loops in order to answer my question. And my question was about let's see if it shows up here, or this is just an idle. Okay, here I just tested. But basically the test was, what do you know about your memory? And in different answers, it basically came to conclusion this is not all, like adding more loops doesn't add quality, but you need to have like a good baseline. And also there is like some kind of clarity needed on like when the OmegaClaw is responding back to you, does it recognize, because it requires one more iteration to determine if that last iteration is valid. So I think I added a bit more scaffolding here to do it more deterministically instead of using LLM each time to like make a decision. Because the OmegaClaw is the interesting thing, what I see there, it has like a standard way of communicating. So yeah, I would actually show you that already. But like how I was basically testing. So I don't know, this what we can do is in here in chat also ask what would you want to know about like OmegaClaw. But for example, I will use let's say we want to know. Okay, I had a test about memory, but on the slide text, let me open up the slides that Guillermo shared. We have these shell and files. Like I wonder which. Okay, we could ask how could we use null and plen. How could we use null and plen to onboard technical developers to learn how to operate OmegaClaw. So this is like a question I want to answer, but right now this is like my first attempt, and I'm doing it in OpenClaw because what I'm gonna do is I wanted to try it in all these different 3 containers at the same time. So let's say I reset all the local host chats, create new, and it's a good question, do I use playwright here? Okay, let's say this scenario, and if it is use to test in each different container, how could we use user prompt? How could we use? So let's see if I just run that and with an auto option. What it should be doing is basically create JavaScript files. I think I have, here is an Omega smoke spec, and it should have this user prompt and basically predetermine, like the test cases, so that instead of we testing, what did I just close it out? Us testing the like is the OmegaClaw working as expected? We can create test scenarios, and that's like a good way to scale the test scenarios. And another thing, I don't know if we get tonight, if I implement this like Minimax API. I think when we get to the HyperSprint stuff, maybe we can do that. And this way we get like another way to then start comparing how different models respond with different patterns respond to your messages. And this way we start, at least my hope is that we find like the differences or like recognize patterns like which models will be the best to use, or what are the different costs. And like I mentioned, we want to get the costs down as much as possible. Then further on, yeah, probably this loop scenario I'm running here will build into the local host itself, so I don't have to run through Cloud or LLM to run these deterministic test scenarios, and I can just write somewhere just a new test, and it already knows how to test it, where to test it, and do all that on its own. But yeah, there's so many ways you can interact with Orchestrator. So it's like an agent can do anything. Like, how do you start with it? So it's already trying to use PowerShell to push something. I wonder if it created new container, or why is it using PowerShell? Or maybe it's restarting containers. Iteration 6. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's restarting containers, so that's why it's using PowerShell. But yeah, while the agent is working, does anybody have any questions regarding on what we're doing, or yeah, what they would want to know from OmegaClaw?
Yeah, I guess one quick question. Is Omega cloud only, or do we have a Ollama version as well? I saw the requirements to install. It doesn't use Ollama, so is it cloud only?
I think, yes, Ollama has what you can do. I don't know if it has direct API connections. The GitHub itself should have that information. So maybe let's check that in here. Well, yeah, Ollama doesn't open up, but what you can do is in Open Router.
Just Open Router. Okay, okay. I guess
there you have all the other options.
Works. Yeah.
And I'm even wondering, you probably can hard code it into the OmegaClaw itself, because another thing I recognized, or like when I was doing this multi-container stuff and like wondering why.
Is there any default loop that is happening to do tasks and like work, like say curtate my email or check my calendar, this and that. Is there any of these tasks and jobs kind of set up, or is it just a whole blank box now that we're applying these loops to it? Like the job, the task loop to do things. Is that in there at all?
That is a good question. Let's ask that from OmegaClaw.
Well, I ask because in my system, like it can curate the news and do some social media posts. That's one thing it does, right? You could consider it's not a loop, but it's a task it does. And the other thing is like it creates some music, right? And it does this based on a lot of the neurosymbolic logic and understanding and cognitive abilities I put in my system. So like these are two tasks that I would define. I'm just wondering, does Omega have any of those kind of available, highlighted for free to show, or are we now at this, like what stage are we at? Like are we now at the point that we're adding these jobs for it to be doing? That's the question.
Yeah, probably I can bring some insight on that. Yeah, definitely. So the OmegaClaw has the ability to interact with tool systems and communication channels like Gmail, let's say, for example. And communities developing skills like other agent framework. In in that sense, it's similar to any Claw framework, like would be Nemo or you name it, from NVIDIA or from other, let's say, developer community.
Okay, well, this is my first claw, so this is why I'm asking. And the
So
only
yeah,
reference I have is what I built, which is not a claw. But so tell me just a high
yes,
level, just a high level.
okay, yeah. So in that case, yes. So skills integration and different execution ranges. So tensions and plugins is also the other aspect that is making this
Yeah, I want to find out the
complex.
direction. I like that's probably that's where we're at now, where we want to start to develop those plugins and
Exactly.
those tasks. And then, like I say, like once we develop them, we give them, right? So have we? So that's new development, new direction. That's new development, new direction. Okay.
Yeah, and that's probably the call to action for all developers checking this stream or on X or on Twitch. The idea of a call to action that we're going to be sharing, but I can share while Tivo probably have something to add on that. What he's running the experience with the agent, is the idea of the BGI sprint, the HyperSprint we have activated right now. So inviting the community to participate, developing to improve the capabilities of OmegaClaw, bringing the amount of burn tokens down and different variables, as you mentioned, Sean. There's a set of skills. Since last time I checked on the repo, there was some skill integration we have on the. So we start this series of hacks with the LA hack, happened 2 or 3 months ago. Don't remember already. No, spent too much time sitting in front of a computer. I don't know what. I know the sun came out here in Buenos Aires, but there were so many iterations. And the good thing about these sprints is that we're going to be iterating monthly, or yeah, I think monthly. So we're looking forward to have a lot of improvements built by the community. The amount of forks, stars on the repo is still small, but it have really increased from last week. So as we keep pushing, inviting your experienced developers into the loop, I guess we will get that sooner than later.
And I would say this was very good, like example question, like does OmegaClaw has any predefined loops or tasks? And that's how we at least what we are trying to do here is to make OmegaClaw to answer this information. And when we ran it through the 5 loops in OmegaClaw, then we recognize it says OmegaClaw can perform predefined workflows. It describes it, and it doesn't really say much else. So there is.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So you're talking to OmegaClaw through your VS Code?
Yes. So this is the local host here. This is the actual
Oh,
website. What I can do is I can open a new browser and do it the same way. But what I did there was I made the Copilot to automatically also to spin up containers and talk to the
so
OmegaClaw.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. I use Olama for mine, okay, and I have some interesting neurosymbolic stuff in it. But what you just said is technically I could use OmegaClaw as my model and put it in as part of my RAG. And then
Yes.
technically I could use OpenRouter and use a free model similar to I use Gemma for. I could use the same cheap model. That's interesting. So I could use it as a mod. I didn't know that. That's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, I see. That's good to know.
All right. And then what I would like this OmegaClaw to answer is what the Copilot just did. Because I asked it also the same question, does OmegaClaw have anything? And what it came up with was like a very similar thing. Yes, it has continuous agent loops, but it doesn't have any fixed business tasks or queues running automatically. This is, I think, what you asked, like, are there any examples or stuff?
No,
But
and it makes sense
then,
totally now. I understand now. It's like a model. It's because it's a well, it's a framework on top of it. Let's be real, right? But I get you. I get you.
I wouldn't say it's actually, maybe it is a model. I would recognize it's a system
The fr
orchestrator that is doing
framework on top of it.
deterministic
Yeah.
things, but it
Yes.
it,
Yes. Yes.
it
Yes.
generates the prompt text, which is so good that is sometimes better than AI generated context.
I understand. I understand.
But yeah, what I like about it, it mentions this loop.meta file, and it describes the current active like loop that I run this right now into. So yeah, there is like still room to improve this
No,
onboarding.
well, as I just figured out, I can use it along with my system. It will work in conjunction. I can actually, now I see how to do it. I can just plug it in as my model and it can do some of my work. I'll have to figure out the setup and I'll share. But this has been a good meeting.
Well, I'm glad that you helped. So we have one test in the background. I think we also finished with the test cases. I guess it said resets localhost chest, and then we wanted this on spec. We reset it, new test scenario. Results or tests passed, every provider's return null onboarding concepts. But I didn't even see any of that. Okay, so I think we need to run again.
Oh, I have a question now. Traceability. So you have been asking OmegaClaw stuff, okay? Can we see the reasoning trace of the questions you've asked?
Yes, we should be, but right now, actually, I'm gonna stop that, run it
It's a technical
again.
question, highly technical question.
It should, but in some reason right now it reset all my logs. So I'm just wondering.
That's what you. Oh, I see. You were trying to do that. Okay.
Run it again and compare the difference. Also, don't reset the logs after doing the tests. I want to visually see it too. How you use the localhost in VS Code. I'm just gonna be very descriptive here. Let's see if it understands that I wanted to actually use the website, because it potentially what it does is, yeah, it runs like, I don't know, npx is like different. Maybe it's just running inside the container these, but it doesn't show me the front end, and that's the issue.
What's the
So-
minimum hardware requirements?
And what is that?
What GPU do you have? What GPU do you have? How much RAM do you have?
I don't know, 50 gigs or something. Yeah, I guess my total is 50 kilobytes memory, and in each container is using 500 megabytes.
So you need 64 gig RAM. Yeah.
Okay, so we can see that it started running also on, at least on the local host, and the memories doesn't really go up. And regarding GPU and stuff, yeah, it's pretty old. Before OmegaClaw, what I tried to do is set up my own local instances, and like with the basic llama models, I've like generated 1 token per second, so not very not very efficient CPU. But that's why now this APIs and services and just making your computer to be like the orchestrator is the thing.
Actually,
And
yeah, I would just do Open Relay.
and as when you have community or a large business with like 10 plus people that are constantly using AI, then it's worth pulling your own bare metal or like, but even then there probably are services that can give you a better price. So it's very tough competition against like should you own your own resources. And it always gets like more expensive to own your own metal because this, I don't know, it looks like we keep building more and more of these data centers, but they're built by those who have the power to use most efficient chips and and so they can like undercut the costs and so yeah, like it feels like race to the bottom in some sense, but there is still like some uh, market value in there. Um, okay, let's see what is the. I'm just gonna close this. What it's saying. So, doesn't really. Okay, so does OmegaClaw has any predefined loops? Okay, this is the wrong. It doesn't show me that it's asking the question. It's in standby mode. It's standby mode, and then it's randomly starts answering this null and PLN question that is coming from the test case, but it doesn't show it here.
That's what I wanted to see. Yeah.
So what is actually happening? So this means our local host is out of sync with the actual logs. Because here I can see far more of that provider, yeah, so we can see GPT-4.9 is the provider. So all of that is the background that I actually want to see here. And I had like collapsed windows and such, but there are some situations where the syntax is changing, and I made this chat like render based on the keywords, and like probably the keywords are not matching again, so it doesn't really, show that there is.
Well, an idea just popped up of a feature. We need a proper dashboard so you can see all of that information of the logs and its activity in a more human-friendly way. And like a report dashboard almost, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah. This is basically unfortunate part that takes the most like time to work with. I can probably run this loop in this live workshop, but we won't get to the results because it's a lot of like back and forth of like, I don't like this picture you have here. And on other side is like understanding of what the agent just did. It sometimes like takes time to explain. Okay, what is that? Share an existing browser that, yes. Yes. So it wired up some test case. Looks like on now these do. It's connected now that port and that port. And the difference is that they use the different loop amounts. And looks like it reset the first loop too. Maybe it did it for all. Who knows? Anyway, while it's working, let's go back to the Docker because I'm trying to find the. Can I use Control F here? User fonts. I'm trying to find still the user. I should have probably copied that exact prompt. Okay, human machines, how could you use null and PLN? And then Charles sent you are the OmegaClaw on it, then puts the OmegaClaw context on top of that. And then skills adds attributes per remember particular string such as skills in memories. So it adds this kind of text on that. And now I wonder, now I think this is already the answer it gave. Or it is putting multiple things at once again, and we are not able to render it or understand it correctly. There is some, and this is what I'm trying to like differentiate in this dashboard.
That would be like a feature that we need to add, really, is better transparency of these things, because that's actually very important. And the big power of what the HyperRun framework brings. So that should be kind of like our front and center big thing we show. So if there's not much work being done on that, that should be happening. And I see a secondary thread here of direction where you use the existing OmegaClaw and you put it to work doing different things. So there's like really two different paths where enhancing the ability of it itself, which is the skills, and I said the transparency of like the traceability. I think I would be better to amplify that because it's one of our special things. But those are two directions I see that we need to go. Because one group could be just using what we have and just building off what we have, and then as we add more features to it, we could enhance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely think there is one other person who is in HyperSprint actually doing this product. Is it Trade Viewer or something? I don't forgot the app, but it like has dashboards that tests different LLMs and how they respond. And basically we're doing very similar things. So yeah, but there is like this fine tune of a learning curve of understanding how it's supposed to work. And then like, I like the way of figuring out like as we go. And then once I get to some kind of conclusion, then, aha, okay, now I know what I want. I can start looking what other people have been doing. And then now learning, okay, what are the best features? Where do I start from? And because then I have my own understanding of the concept of what we are looking from here. Although there is a danger that then you have to unlearn your own stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to spark developer ideas because other developers are going to watch this, so everything technical kind of helps.
But right now it looks like it's still that this skill stuff is adding a lot of like not just skills. There is history. There is like history of previous commands. There are some rule logics. And then it looks like it's human message again, but it's just human message wrapped into that skill. Then it uses the OpenAI response, and now I get the first response. And I wonder, yeah, it even feels like it's duplicating. So it gets a response, and then it puts it through a loop, the same response, and gets the information again, but now with an added information. I think there is like an update here. Now we're on iteration 8. I don't know, was that somewhere iteration 7 then? And never same placeholders. Okay, now it starts the entire again, the logic again. And yeah, now it's confusion, like, is that the repetition or is there some kind of improvements on this iteration? So all of that, yeah, should be solved with dashboard. And unfortunately, I still haven't been able to do that on the local host. But we can, what we learned with that is that there is already in background, this loop is working and it is trying to give answers. It's just that in this front end, they do not appear, and looks like in none of the containers actually gave this answer. But Copilot says that left all the chat logs intact, didn't click clear log or restart. So basically I timed out. Loop kept iterating iteration 31 without producing a final answer. stuck cycling loop iteration, no synthesized reply. So interestingly, by having more loops, it actually didn't get to the result. So right now it's more of like agent development of figuring out what are the causes, why they timed out, are there some ways we can escape early? Because what we can do is now test if, yeah, unfortunately we don't have a good dashboard, so we have to rely on the container logs. If I scroll down to the bottom, I just want to see if it actually did give an answer. It's just that I wasn't able to find it. I'll really scroll that either. Okay, the last message response ready when you resist assistant, let me know the next steps. Okay, that's random. Okay, so this is just waiting. Do I have it under Control F? I do. So here is the test it puts in, and it does give answer already in like iteration 11, and it probably iterates the same thing over and over again. But probably my dashboard doesn't render it because it's missing some kind of tags, or the way I set it up to recognize it. It was not it's not picking it up. Well, so I guess we have enough of this part of like trying to like understand how it works, and what I wanted to share with this is like like an ability to like build OmegaClaw while it's not the main operator right now. But I could usually imagine that OmegaClaw at some point is capable of replacing the Copilot itself and then doing that kind of iteration and like self-learning inside it.
Yeah, I see that use case for sure. Yeah.
And I'm a Windows user, so my terminal is basically a Docker. But if you're a Linux user, you will have your own tool sets and ways to interact. I guess I also see Paul Tiffany has a huge response in chat. I don't know, I think it started as soon as we started live workshopping. So if you want, you can share what you have in mind. I'm also gonna have to stop sharing mine so we can move more to the open floor.
Sure. Hi, my name's Paul Carver Tiffany III. I worked in the back office at a technology company until recently when I left. It was my decision. I wanted to join this community to contribute to a beneficial future. It's very important as we do that, and I do believe we have the capacity to do that, that we just take it one step at a time, not, uh, bite more than you can chew, as you could say. So to that effect, make sure that you get plenty of sleep. Don't be, manically coding all day and all night, because these things are important. And yeah, we need to be very mindful of what we're doing right now. And make sure that as you're building these new things, you're actively engaged. It's incredibly important at this time, that if you feel strained or anything, that you just take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Thank you, guys. Yeah, just please be mindful of security. Really recommend, if it's your first time with OmegaClaw, just use the README documentation and just do an out-of-the-box build, just for your first implementation. Definitely reach out to the community if you have any questions at all. And yeah, let's build together. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Much appreciated. Not only your support, but your contributions with the community. The same, Sean. Thanks for the query, the interactions, and testing. You know, the table. We need to check the table. Definitely conscious building, ethical building is kind of what we do here. So step by step is the way. More with this setup architecture is challenging, probably too technical in some ways. I remember Paul mentioning last time, the challenge is to have this running on a Chromebook on a phone and have a grandmas interacting. Definitely security, a main issue to tackle. One thing to follow up on the dev discussion from the community interactions, different channels, discussions, even from the AGI meeting at the Bay Area a month ago where Paul was. Definitely, there's different, it is pretty different the way we interact with the Omega with other agents in today's stage, because you can control the way the agent approach by setting up that context, but by controlling the, let's say, its anger to go and look for the query. So it's definitely more useful to guide his curiosity, kind of a don't overlook, don't over encourage. It's like it's because it is like a kid. It's behaving in a bunch of ways. I don't know. This is probably my weight. Yeah, like a dog. It is. It is more like a kid. So it's gonna go through your pillows for your socks. So you need to kind of set up that, not put it on a leash, but I think it's better to try that or to describe the context. So different prompting, different way of querying. So different interactions like we do with other agents, like you just spit out something, and because it's different reasoning behind it. So at least that was my take of what I'm seeing from not only my interaction, but community reflections on it. You can follow also this on the Telegram channel, how sometimes he's like, he's playing on the backyard. He's not even paying attention to what, you need to call him a couple of times, as Paul is saying, it's like a dog. So it's pretty unique.
I like what you said about the context. You got to give it, nudge it in the direction you want it to go. And it's almost like long context. If you always want it to do something, it always has to have that in its longer term memory to always recall on it. So when you're adding context, I'm not exactly sure of the innards yet of OmegaClaw, but I'm sure there's long-term and short-term type memories. If you want it to always do a pattern, you should be putting it more into your longer-term memories rather than, yeah. So I'll have to take more time to dive deep into the code to see how Omega is. I know how my system, like I'm referencing what I just did on my booster. So I'm studying Japanese a little bit, and I want to add Japanese flavor to my avatar. So I added the domain knowledge, which is in my term the long-term memory, where it's always available to it. It's like training it, so then I don't have to give it that context again, and it's always there in the long-term memory. So it's similar to this. It should help direct it to the direction you want it to go with less effort to always have that. It's almost like having your CloudMD file, right? So think about when you're doing context, put things in long-term memory that you want it to kind of become, almost like a persona. I noticed, I was looking at your architecture and you don't have persona, but this is similar to that. But then I also want to talk about the adaptation, the adaptability of the OmegaClaw. Can you speak a little bit on how it does that or where that comes into play? Because adaptive learning. It's continuing learning because it's going through that loop, right? And but the adaptive part is how it changes based on its previous behavior. Can you explain anything on that?
Yeah, I can. What I've learned from documentation, as Patrick Hammer is not in the room, and for what I've learned from my own experience and what I know from what
Yeah, the usage, like how
yeah
does it adapt? How did yeah.
yeah, so more so I don't I think it's more of the PLN uh, and the atom space and how this because the differentiation is the hypercock inputs
Yeah,
into.
I know, but what are the triggers that trigger it to change? Like adaptive means like you're adjusting and based on
Yeah,
truths or successful things. Like
yeah, I think
where is it learning that? Where in its understanding is it kind of
well, that's a
adapting?
good question. That's something that's a call to action. That probably is going to be one of the best outputs of these sessions because we are going to be feeding the dev team into a lot of questions that a lot of us are probably doing while we engage with not only with the agent but also with meta language. So I think it has to do with NAL and the PLN on it and um, how this meta and atom space have a constant iteration. So and I think it's learning from mistakes and learning from this. So I think that's because you can say part comes from the LLM training. That's part of it, okay? But it's not the engine. So I understand that a lot of the knowledge is comes from that, what is in the internet from the library. So if it's true, if it's not, I'm judging the ethical behind that. That's something different that probably come part of its own rationale.
Yeah, this is good for the dev team for sure. Yeah, to think
So
about.
because yeah, let's remember we have that LLM provider for the APIs you have on the description, you have on the repo. Looking forward to see the Kimi 3 working on it, but that's part of let's say, yeah, it's the constant, the foundational memory, if you want to say it so. Then it iterates and recollects the interactions we have with it. But it will be like the world library that it becomes the internet that is connected through the API. So I think that's part of the knowledge, the learning experience and this curiosity that they are describing in this kind of going back and forward and learning. That's what really makes for me what triggers to me to learn more about it and understand because that's a uniqueness.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, how can I trigger it to learn the things I want it to learn? Like, and that needs to be more clear in the documentation. If it's not, like,
Yeah, and how to
how do
control
we
it.
trigger it? How do we
Exactly.
trigger it to learn a direction?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. So the query and the prompting is different. And also do it in this phase, controlling the energy usage. We call it token. It have always been the same, whatever energy equation. Uh, if it's kilowatt, if it's calorie, whatever. So we need to rationalize that because if we don't achieve that, not good, not good.
One of the best ways, honestly, is offload from the LLM and you put it in math and local. There's a lot of people put too much workload on the LLM, and you can far do it once and have it for free if you develop it external. You use the LLM for its special purpose, but you don't overuse it for other things. That's waste of money. So there's
Exactly.
another thing too, light LLM. So let me talk about this. I worked on a hackathon by Solus in Ottawa here, and they use a Solus agent mesh. Um, and behind the scenes, they use a LLM router called a light LLM, and this has helped them route to the models in a very efficient way. And it's something, and they have really good tokenomics. So it might be worth someone's effort to look into. Maybe instead of going directly to a model, we go into a model router to help that token cost also. So we might need our own specialized router if we don't have one. Just an idea for token cost.
Well, no,
There
I think
was,
that's another call to action, Tibo. What do you
yeah,
think on
I
that?
think something we may have to ask it from Patrick, but the way I understood it, each container can only have one LLM. So even if you use open router that is able to use multiple LLMs, it at least or maybe it's because of the Docker
No,
like
it's called
images.
light LLM. It's a router where you register your multiple API providers in that router, and then it will route amongst them. So your claw will see it as one. Anyway,
Mhm.
just an idea. Just an idea
Yeah,
to save on money.
in theory it should work. But yeah, right now, when you create an OmegaClaw instance, you have to specify the model. So you mean that it's a
Yes, I
one
know.
model, but the model uses multiple models underneath.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is this is a new module would be added, right? And then you could use
Mm.
that instead of just going direct. You would go through the router, and it would take care of it. It's a up and
Mhm.
coming feature. Up and coming feature. Maybe I work on it. Who knows?
Yeah. Because
Yeah, we need
in
some
theory, the open router should be able to do it, but in here, there you also have to specify that. So that's at least at the current state. But regarding the
Okay.
adaptability, the way I understand it is it's like you mentioned, like you create yourself evaluations, like or evaluators that you care about. But this means you're creating your own like skill set and your understanding of what are you trying to improve. Because I guess my first on in February I started like doing my first like agentic tests. Uh, One of the first skills was like a skill improver that okay you have now run this prompt 5 times and then evaluate it in these like 6 or 7 criteriums and then compare these different like results and change the context or like skill file, then run it again and do it 5 times and then figure out like this is how I understand adaptability or like the improvements. And in
Yeah,
OmegaClaw, again, it's something that you have to pull yourself as workflows. But this would
prompt
be
engine.
pretty cool if we could just plug in, okay, to train this or train that, because it feels like an abstract logic enough that is like a multi-use for everybody. One pull it once and everybody can start training and setting like the adoption direction without having to know, do I need to use atom space or do I use like direct just plain text in database or I think there are like 3 or 4 memory options in the how OmegaClaw can be used. So
Yeah, you're talking about optimized prompts, like prompt engineering type stuff. Sometimes you build it right in, but you do that in a whole optimized loop because you're right. Um, every single task has a really optimized prompt, and you only can get that by iterating. But once you have it, then you're right. Then you lock it in as a skill, right?
I
Very
would even
useful.
say that we could do it while you just do a one-time prompt and you're just asking that you're doing your work and it puts it into memory, but it still labels it and still validates it and maybe collects it by the for like 1 week. And because I recognized in the early stages Copilot, every week it changed completely. Or like at least it felt like it changed completely, and it is getting better. But again, uh, like the prices and the stuff always keeps fluctuating. I think even just pulling this dashboard itself took like $50 and it's like it's not working. So yeah, there is a lot to improve.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we get better. We have been playing around with this concept of we the AGI, because today we are the AGI. You know, we with this tool we become the most intelligent living thing. Not as the whales or the dolphins yet, but we are getting there. But I mean, so we get better on how we use the tool. You know, it's like so we're understanding, and that's why these are mostly useful. You know, the same brainstorming. This is like a jam session for us. Hopefully, we can have more knowledgeable people like you, Sean, Paul, and or Colin, people that have their hands on to join. Not only building, but also helping us to understand, and and we learn together. But before we go to the closing call to action, anyone wants to add something to what we were discussing? Now is when.
So all these workshops and stuff, why are they happening is we have Ambassador Program, and we, through governance, decided we should support PGI and their activity. And under that, there is like, okay, we also want to support all the tools that are coming out. And we chose right now OmegaClaw because it was most like, I guess, hands-on and newest stuff to play around with. So yeah, with that, I think next week we will be focusing on checking the onboarding survey results. So I put the form again in the chat. We will be probably asynchronously sharing it a few more times. And based on that result, we create like, yeah, we prepare a new iteration. Is it gonna be live workshops or how it's gonna look like? We don't know yet. But yeah, we hope that through this onboarding, we can asynchronously steer ourselves. We can also join Ambassador Program to, yeah, into governance sessions or in the channels, and with either like question about the tools or even, yeah, what do we do next as a collective? And that's everything is up in a debate. And I guess yeah, that's basically it from my side.
Love, welcome, girl. How are you? You have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Guillermo. How are you doing? Good to be here. So I was going to ask, since we're trying to kind of get thoughts from here and there, I was wondering if maybe we should share the survey out there via Twitter comments. I don't know, is that too public? Because I feel like our responses are fewer than what I expect from the way questions are being thrown here. So it would make sense if we kind of tell everybody, okay, this is what we have. Can you go in there and say what you think you would like to see? Since this is kind of like a series we are trying to do until we get there, So that was what I was going to suggest.
Yeah, I really like the idea. Thanks for that. Yeah. Also, we're going to be building summaries from our interactions. So all of that, not only engaging with the agent with queries, but also to that team, and also figure out. Also, I didn't try to open the Twitch. I don't know what is going on. So we're kind of setting things up as we move. We already have the rhythm, the melody. Now we're going to go into soloing and all those aspects of music as we build. But yeah, thank you for that. The other thing we need to do for sure before we kind of start wrapping up this one is call to action for where to take all this knowledge. So if today workshops make you want to actually build something with the OmegaClaw, collaborate with our community, here's your next step. So HyperSprint is live on the BGI Commons site. You can join an existing squad or bring your own experiment and build directly with the community. So I think tomorrow we have a live session, community showcasing. Teams can share their working. I think there's also going to be some text from the Omega team answering questions. So pick up a mission, build something weird, and ship it. Okay, we're looking forward to see you at the HyperSprint. Log in, join in a different team. I'm going to hit on the link that is in the presentation. So all the details on how to participate, okay? What's the challenge about, and everything about how to participate, okay? You have all the directions, okay? Criteria, free tracks, okay? As we mentioned earlier, agents, onboarding to the OmegaClaw, and follow-up projects, all the details. On the site, it's going to also be on the feed and comments on on our socials. Okay, the schedule, we are here today. So tomorrow, again, workshop, community showcasing, and also you're going to find judging criteria and rewards. And I think most useful idea is to also if you're new join the teams that are already working on. I saw Paul already still on the call, put a proposal in. We're probably going to be doing that also with the Ambassador Program. And remember, you have 3 tracks: building agents, building documentation, and improving and follow up from previous iterations for this. It's going to be monthly. And again, join teams. There is Paul and Sheila, and they're still looking for some new member to join the team. Yeah, do that. And with that, on my end, probably go back and say thank you all. Good to see you. Welcome. If you're new to the ecosystem, looking forward to see you contribute to building the OmegaClaw, joining our sessions, joining the BGI sprints, and again, engage with not only with the repo, but also with Omega in our Telegram. All the links on the feed, on our socials. Scan the QR code, fork the thing, build on top of it. Security matters. And yeah, thank you all for being here. Looking forward for the next one. We're going to be sharing the next schedule on our socials and also on the Ambassadors Program calendar. Probably, I don't know, in 2 weeks, we're going to be back with some improvements. But yeah, thank you all for being here. If anyone wants to add something, now is when. If not, we see you guys on the next one.
Thank you,
Sarah,
guys. Ciao.
Ashley, and Colin. See you guys later on.